Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. Hey everybody, I'm Joel Smith, and with me today is Greg Gilbaugh. Hey Greg, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for letting me join you today.
Yeah, Joe is not with us today. He's off doing something probably heroic. So, Greg, so what's been going on with you lately? I haven't talked to you for a little while.
Well, still working and overseeing the clinics, coaching program, getting that put together, getting ready to launch in the direction. New book coming out. We're taking pre-orders right now, letting good things run wild. The integration of personal faith and into your business interests so that you can develop a deeper faith, a better business, and a more profound leadership impact. So working through that and enjoying it.
Letting good things run wild.
Yes.
Oh, that is a terrific title. I'm not sure that you had a title the last time we talked, but that's a great title.
It's it's from a quote from G.K. Chesterton, one of those a British English theologian that when he speaks, you just feel stupid, and so you just try to soak up everything. He's got a real has some nice quips. I like reading some of his stuff, so that one really stood out to me. So I borrowed part of one of his quotes, and that's the title of my book. So, but always grateful to make time for a Superhero Sidekick podcast. Great.
Yeah, that's good. So, speaking of stupid, you had just mentioned the word stupid, and it reminded me of our title today. So, hey, Greg and I are going to be talking about a title called Mount Stupid in the Valley of Despair. I know some of you might be thinking, whoa, what does that mean? But we'll get into that. So this is really a perspective on knowledge and ignorance. And so Mount Stupid in the Valley of Despair is something that I think you'll all be able to relate to. We've all been there before. And if you don't think you have, you might just be on Mount Stupid. So anyway, we're going to get going here, Greg. So, hey, Greg, have you ever felt like you're on Mount Stupid?
Yes. I've got a punch pass, been up there, quite a few times. And, I'm really looking forward to this because, Mount Stupid, the Valley of Despair, it is really the journey towards wisdom, which that's where we want to be. And I really like what you're going to bring for us today, Joel, because going through Mount Stupid in the Valley of Despair is almost inevitable for many of us, not just once, but a number of times, and to recognize it so that we don't have to stay there, but we learn our lessons and we move on towards wisdom. So looking really forward to what you have to share with us today.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So I've got a few quotes for you here real quick. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. And Charles Darwin says that as well. And so Charles Darwin was a naturalist, and so this is not a religious perspective at all. This is just an observation of the way we are as humans. Socrates says, the more you know, the more you realize you know nothing. And then a couple more quotes real quick. Ignorance is truth not realized. All right, I like that one. And then the last one, knowledge is ignorance revealed and eliminated. Any of those strike you, Greg?
Well, yes, ignorance is truth not realized. That really resonates because being ignorant is not really being stupid or foolish. It just means I don't know. And once we stop learning, we're just going to stay in the pool of ignorance. Ignorance is not bad. It's something that we all have a certain measure of, depending on certain topics, but we just don't want to stay there. And
right.
So we can take steps to move on and have a greater impact on our businesses.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, a little bit of knowledge can really lead to overconfidence. And that's really what we want to talk about. So we're going to kind of enter into the world of Mount Stupid here. So I'll give you an idea of what that means. So Sometimes a tiny bit of knowledge on a subject can lead people into mistakenly believing that they know all there is to know about that topic. You've probably all heard the saying, "A little knowledge is a dangerous thing," or maybe he knows just enough to be dangerous, right? And so that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about a level of knowledge that seems in your own mind to be a much bigger, embellished level of knowledge than maybe what it really is. So, Greg, have you ever known anybody like that? Somebody that kind of really has a perspective of being a know-it-all, or maybe they're not even trying to be a know-it-all, but they come across as somebody that's an expert, but yet you know that they're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a picture of them on my own driver's license. So yeah, I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
And I do think, when I look at that, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I think back to whenever we look, let's say, into the Bible, whenever the young men were asked, what should we do? And people did it, it ended up as a miserable failure. Many times when we're younger, we think that we do know it all. Knowledge with great zeal really can lead to a lot of destruction, confidence and bravado and those sorts of things. And so, yeah, it can be a dangerous thing, especially when you're leading people in an organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, everybody, what we're talking about is we're not pointing a finger at those people that are different than us. We're pointing at ourselves, because like Greg said at the very beginning, this is a process we all have to go through, and we will. And I'm sure Greg and I can share, and probably will share some stories of our own lives of how we've gone through this. But so I'm sure all of you have seen the commercials on TV for the Holiday Inn Express. Are you a doctor? No, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. That kind of sums it up pretty well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Kind of an overconfidence because they got some sleep.
That's right.
Yeah. So Greg, what we're talking about today is really the Dunning-Kruger effect. And so this is something that I've been studying here for maybe a couple months. I came across this when I was really learning about ignorance, kind of really studying ignorance and what that is. And I came across the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what this was is, several years ago, these two psychologists, I believe, really wanted to get an idea of why people are overconfident, why their perception of their abilities or their skills is typically higher than what they really are. And so really they were kind of studying stupidity, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what they kind of came up with as a summary. So they said that, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a type of cognitive bias in which people believe that they are smarter and more capable than they really are. Okay. Essentially, people with low ability do not possess the cognitive skills needed to recognize their own incompetence. So they struggle recognizing their own incompetence. And so this is kind of like a blind spot, I would say. And then the combination of poor self-awareness and low cognitive ability leads them to overestimate their own capabilities. So they overestimate their capabilities because they're just not aware that there are better capabilities out there, right? And so this is not, like they said, to diminish. This is where we all have been, and this is where we're all going to be. We're going to be there again and again and again every time that we're going to learn something. I suppose maybe you could avoid Mount Stupid if you just lock yourself in a closet and don't talk to anybody and don't learn anything ever again, but that's about it. So once we get a taste of something that's knowledgeable, and that makes us look smart if we share it, we're going to want to share it, right?
Yes.
We just do. And even though I think sometimes when I do that, Greg, in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking, okay, these people might be thinking that I'm kind of bragging or something, but yet I still do it. So I don't know. It just, I guess I guess I'm a fool sometimes, and I live on Mount Stupid on occasion. So anyway, so I've got the Dunning-Kruger effect has this really cool chart, and it's been identified by uh, this specific pattern. So I want you to imagine real quick that there's like a graph, and on the left side of your page, going vertically is a line, and it's a measure of confidence. It's how confident you are. At the very top is a very high confidence level, and at the very low, at the bottom is low confidence. And then on the horizontal line at the bottom, think of that as knowledge and experience, or maybe wisdom, where all the way on the left, there's a spot where you know nothing. So you just really know nothing. And all the way on the right, you're an expert, or you know a lot. Okay. So it's as more to the right, your knowledge goes up. So here's how Mount Stupid works. So what it really says is that when people get just enough, just a little bit, a touch of knowledge, our confidence that we know all about this goes sky high. So you've got this mountain at the beginning of the graph. So even though you're still kind of on the left side of not really knowing much, it kind of spikes up and it goes up to the top, even without knowing much. Okay, and then it starts to come down. Now we call this the peak of Mount Stupid. Okay, this is when that guy, that doctor or that non-doctor, really does try to do heart surgery because he stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yes.
Okay, that's just Mount Stupid. That's a really stupid thing, but his confidence is sky high. That's when a person who really doesn't know how to lead a company does it because he thinks he can, or maybe a person gets into a business they just have no business getting into because they're just really not competent, but they think, how hard can it be, right? And so there's this peak. This peak, when you're on Mount Stupid, and then all of a sudden, you begin to realize how much you really don't know. Maybe that comes in the form of running into some problems that you didn't expect because you didn't think through it long enough to really realize what you don't know, or other people bring those things to your attention. They say, well, what about this? What about that? Or, no, you're wrong. Whatever it is, opposition to your great vast knowledge, and a lot of times that will just lead us to fall. I know, Greg, you and I have had in our business world, we've had some times where we've been doing well in our business, and maybe we got a little overconfident, and we fell, and we fall into this what we call the valley of despair. And so that's the other side of this mountain on the graph. And it's a valley that goes down quite a bit, and it shows that our knowledge is nothing close to what we thought it was, because we didn't know what we didn't know, and our confidence level really drops at that point too. This is a spot when things get desperate and you kind of fall from that great place, and it's a hard place to be. When you say, Greg?
Absolutely. Joe, I really like on your graph that you have here, up at the peak of Mount Stupid is, you say you have some information, but when you combine that with pride, that results in foolishness. Yep. The lack of information is not so much of a factor as when you combine it with pride. That seems to be the gas that is starting to light this fire of the consequences of foolishness.
Yeah.
And, I think of new graduates from college that have a lot of, quote, book knowledge, then they get on the field, they get into the workplace, and it's like a lot of things that I hear it here from doctors that come to work here. It's like, well, here's something that we never were taught in school. I wish we would have had a class in patient relationships, how to deal with complaints, how to deal with unrealistic expectations, how to deal with people, and
problem solving.
Problem solving.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at that, that one of the key factors of the foolishness is to be locked in with pride. And um, Joel, whether you agree or disagree, what role do you see as pride in causing some of the poor consequences of being on Mount Stupid?
Yeah, yeah, and just to define pride a little bit, pride can be defined a couple different ways, kind of in the biblical or the religious context. It's really kind of a self-centeredness, and then there's another kind of pride too, where you feel proud of yourself for an accomplishment. That's not really what we're looking at, but we are looking at the pride of selfishness. And when you take information is a great thing, by the way. That's why our world revolves around research and information. But when you take that research and information and you combine it with something that's with pride, that is self-centered, now that information just becomes a weapon to serve you in some way. And in this case, I think many times when we're on Mount Stupid, the information that we have serves us because we want to appear like we're smart. We want people to think much of us. We want to be able to puff our chest out a little bit and have people kind of instantly respect us because of how wise we are with our words. And that's really what foolishness is. And we've all been there. Like we said, you have to go through that. And so, yeah, I think that's where pride comes in too. And the opposite of pride really, in a lot of ways, is humility. And so if we drop down to that valley, the valley of despair, I think there's a moment of choice when we're at that place. When you're at that place where you've been kind of humbled, you've been kind of put in your place, and you realize that everything that you thought has been pulled out from under you, and now you're kind of at a new beginning point. There is a moment of choice, and we can do one of a couple things. Number one, when we're in the valley of despair, there's a formula here that I want to use, and that is, despair plus denial equals helplessness. Okay, so one thing we could do is we could be in a place of despair, but we could deny responsibility or make excuses or blame other people or whatever, and that's going to lead us to helplessness. And if we're in a helpless position, all we can do is stay in that position, or we can try to find another Mount Stupid to climb, right? And so, like in the workplace, especially maybe in the service industry or other industries where there's maybe more turnover, what you see is that people will kind of climb up, they'll kind of rely on what they know, and they'll fall, they'll be at that place at the valley, and rather than really moving on and becoming responsible, they'll just move on to another Mount Stupid and kind of go there. And I've seen that a lot, where people will kind of rise to the peak of Mount Stupid, fall down to the valley of despair, and look for a new mountain to climb. And that's really a shortcut, but it turns into a pattern. And in our company, in our leadership, we call that the lateral loop, where you keep recycling the same loop and over and over. But the other part to this, so the other choice in this valley is the equation that I put in place here is despair plus responsibility equals humility. See, humility and helplessness are two different things. Sometimes people can get those confused a little bit, but helplessness is saying I can't. Humility is saying, now I know what I need to know. Okay? Humility is realizing that you don't have it, but now realizing what you need to get and what you need to do. It's seeing yourself in a sober place. And so that can be, should you choose that route, the route of responsibility, that could be a great start to get you to, the world of wisdom.
Yeah, Joel, what, let's say someone, they're finding themselves there right now. They're saying, I'm meeting unrealistic or unfulfilled expectations. Leading this team, leading this organization, running this business is a lot more difficult than I ever thought it would be. And I find myself in the valley, and you say, look, you need to focus on, responsibility, humility. what does that give a person when they decide to lean into that? What
Well,
are the benefits of doing that?
well, the biggest thing is it gives you power. You have power to actually make a change. And when you're in a place of despair, and you give everyone else your power. In other words, you're saying, hey, I'm in this place because this person did that, or because those people did that, or because I didn't have the opportunity because this person didn't give it to me, or whatever excuses you make. You're basically putting all of the power in other people's hands, or you're just blaming the circumstance. So if you're really going to blame the circumstance and blame the people around you, then there's no way you're ever gonna find your way to a better place until all of your circumstances and all of the other people line up to clear a path for you, right? But that's just not going to happen, But when you accept responsibility, you say, you know what, I'm not going to get anywhere great unless I take responsibility for it, because it's not going to just happen by mistake. But if I take responsibility and I'm humble and I realize what I do not know, then at least I have a chance to find out what it is I do need to know in order to get there. And so I think that's it. It really gives you power. It gives you power, and it begins the process of confidence too, because now you can put confidence on those things that you really need to learn for sure, not just take a little bit of information and puff it up so that you appear, wise or intelligent. You're really working kind of from the bottom up, which kind of leads us to that next slope that moves up. It's a lot more of a gradual slope than the slope coming down from the peak of Mount Stupid. And we call this the slope of enlightenment. So it's a shallower slope, and it takes more time, because it takes more time to grow wisdom and to really learn, because it takes exploration, it takes creativity, it takes a curiosity of what you don't know, and a longer term focus on learning things you don't know. And so it just takes time. But during that time, we call that enlightenment, because you're actually being enlightened to something that you don't know, because that's what your focus is.
Yeah, what lies on the other side of this valley of despair? And you say it's a slope of enlightenment, but it's moving towards a path of wisdom. And what's the benefit of having wisdom? What's different between wisdom and just information?
Yeah, well, information is just information. I think wisdom is knowing what to do with that information. It's knowing what to do with it, and then applying it in the right way. So it is interesting. So with that slope of enlightenment, the little formula that I have here is humility plus enlightenment equals wisdom. Okay, humility plus enlightenment equals wisdom. If you don't have humility and you just have enlightenment, it doesn't lead to wisdom. It just leads to more knowledge. But if you have humility but no enlightenment, so you understand where you really are, but you're not seeking enlightenment, that's not really going to lead to wisdom either. It's just going to lead to a humble person that's making no attempts to grow. And so humility plus enlightenment equals wisdom. And so as you're moving up that slope, you're moving towards wisdom. And then you kind of go to this plateau of wisdom, or plateau of sustainability, which is more at the top of this. And that's, the formula that for this is wisdom plus influence equals impact. So wisdom plus influence equals impact. So you can have wisdom, but if you're not in a place of influence, so you're not in a place where anybody can hear you. Maybe you're not in a leadership position, or you don't speak up, but you have wisdom, you're not really going to impact a lot of people. And if you are in a place of influence, so you have a position, you are in a place where you speak and people will hear you, but you don't have wisdom, you're not going to have the same kind of impact there either. You may have an impact, but it might be a negative impact. And so it's really important that wisdom plus influence equals impact. And so that's where we want to get to. We want to get to the point where we've been enlightened and we have some wisdom, but then we're also willing to share that and to actually be an influence for other people so we can impact. And that's where the legacy comes in. When there's so many people in our world that have had such a great impact on society, and this is how they got there. I don't know of anybody, Greg, that took a shortcut through this. And do you have any idea of anybody of great influence in our world that just took a shortcut and went right straight to wisdom?
No, I don't, because I think wisdom takes time. It's taking knowledge and it's putting it in the crock pot, for a while, and it's got to slow cook and become something that is really beneficial to others. I find it interesting that when we look in the Old Testament, that the word for wisdom is the same word that's translated as skill. And the reason why is because the Jewish culture believed that, and I think there's a lot of insight in there, is that when someone was determined to be wise, it's because they were very skillful in taking knowledge and applying it to do something beneficial to others. Wisdom was not just how much that you would know, but it's how much you would show.
Right.
In essence, it's wisdom, or knowledge is facts. Facts are fine. You need to know those. But when you start to take knowledge and start to form concepts, I see how knowledge forms. We're starting to think conceptually, but when you can take that and actually then apply it to benefit others, that's wisdom. When we have problems that we need to have solved, we want to go to someone who says that we know they can do something, they will offer me something beneficial to solve my problems. That's a person of wisdom. And you have someone like that leading an organization that is going to be impactful. It's not just information, but it's beneficial, useful, problem-solving information.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's why this is so interesting. And it's so important for everybody to understand. But I do want to talk a little bit more, just to add to what we were talking about, the Dunning and Kruger effect. So the research that Dunning and Kruger did suggests a few things here, and that is that people who scored the lowest percentiles on tests of grammar, humor, and logic also tended to dramatically overestimate how well they had performed. Okay, kind of goes along with what we were talking about before. They overestimate themselves. Their actual test scores placed them in the 12th percentile, but they estimate that their performance placed them in the 62nd percentile. So they asked people, they gave people tests, and they said, where do you think where do you think your results are gonna land? And then say, oh, I think I'm in the 62nd percentile. But these are people that actually landed in the 12th percentile. So for whatever reason, they were in the bottom quadrant, but they thought that they were smarter than that. They always thought they were gonna be higher than that. And it's interesting too, Greg, because I'll bet every listener that we have out there, if we were to do a survey for everybody that's listening right now in their area of expertise, if we just asked all of them in their area of expertise, do you believe that you're in the top 25% when ranked amongst people of your own peers? How many of you think that you would be in the top 25%? And I'll bet at least half the people listening, and including you and I probably, would say that we're in the top 25%. But mathematically, that doesn't make sense, does it?
Correct.
We can't, 50% of the people can't be in the top 25%, but we tend to overestimate ourselves. If I were to survey all of the managers of my company and ask them, I'll bet they, most of them would say that they're in the top 25%.
Yep.
And that's just the way we are. If I ask you if you're in the top 25% of the dentist, or if I'm in the top 25% of the restaurant industry, we would think that we are, because we haven't learned enough to realize we're not. And so, and even if we are, there was a much time in the past where we thought we were when we weren't.
That's right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's another study of lawyers that revealed that when asked if they believe that they're in the top 5% of people in their field, 42% replied that they believe that they were.
Yeah.
So 42% of these lawyers thought they were in the top 5%, which obviously there's 37% that were just wrong.
That's a lot of out punting your coverage there.
Yeah, that's right. So that really is an effect. And so they looked at the different quartiles of this. They did some testing, and so they took tests, and they would evaluate, and they would kind of separate them, kind of grade them on a curve. And the bottom quartile, the people that scored the lowest on this test, they thought that they would be in the upper 50%. They believed they were going to be above 50%, but they ended up being, from 0 or 1% to 25%. The second quartile, which would be people that actually scored between 25% and 50%, they thought they were going to be closer to 60%. So they were wrong too, not as wrong as the bottom quartile. But then the third quartile, these are the people that on these tests, they were above average. They were somewhere between 50 and 75%. And so they were definitely above average, but that's about what they thought they were going to do as well. And so they were pretty close. They had a more accurate perspective of their abilities versus their outcomes, which is interesting. And then the fourth quartile here, this would be the people that scored the best in these testing. This would be the people that's in the upper 25%. Interesting enough, they underestimated their perception of where they were going to be. So they might have been at 90%, but they thought they were going to be at 80%. So it's interesting how people that are more that are more successful in this testing or produce more didn't overestimate themselves. And why do you suppose that is, Greg? How do you relate to that? How do we make sense of that?
Well, I think that goes back to humility and understanding. I think people at that top performing quarter are those that are saying, look, I don't know as much as I should know. And as a result, they're very, very teachable. And as a result, they're seeking even more information and understand. It's like people who have been coached are those who will actually seek out more help in running their businesses than people who are not coached, because they understand there are some things that I really don't know and I need help in getting to know them. They're very teachable, very humble, but they want to grow. And so as a result, they are having a greater impact on their businesses and organizations.
Yeah, well said. Excellent. So the researchers found less competent people are not only poor performers, but they also are unable to accurately assess and recognize the quality of their own work. Yeah. So that's something to. This is an awareness issue, isn't it? And so in the workplace, how this kind of plays out is that, underperforming employees can't see their own deficiencies, and these are deficiencies that you and I might be able to see in them, or their coworkers might be able to see in them, but they don't see in themselves. And yes. So this test also reveals that, students who earn failing scores on exams sometimes feel they deserve a much higher score, because in their mind, they don't see why they scored low. They just, maybe they're judging it by effort. Maybe they worked really hard and tried to do the best they can, and so they thought they'd be judged that way. I don't know, but so likewise, underperforming employees oftentimes feel like they deserve a higher wage. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Sometimes we'll see an employee that just doesn't get it. They're not measuring up. Their results aren't very good, but they don't even realize that. They don't know that they're not measuring up. In fact, in their mind, they're doing great. Maybe they're comparing themselves to the weakest link. I don't know. But whatever it is, there's a lot of people that do that. And you and I, Greg, I'm sure we've done this at times too, where we just didn't realize what we don't know. And so it just really shows that there's a lack of objectivity when it comes to viewing ourselves. It's really hard to view ourselves from an objective perspective to see how we are on more of an objective scale compared to other people. It's just
Yes.
difficult.
I would say, I'm going to give you an example from the healthcare field. I know it's true in the dental field, and I know it's really true in the office. When we have someone that comes in as a patient, and they have a problem or a situation, and whenever they start out by saying, "Well, doctor, I've been on the internet," and
oh man, I'll bet that's great.
yes, it's like, okay, so you got some information, and you have a very high opinion of yourself, and you're taking this bit of information, and because you feel that you're sharp, capable in some other field or whatever, in this other field that you don't have as much knowledge and information, you go to the internet, you get some information, and you feel like you can speak with great wisdom and authority. And it's like, no, you're not quite seeing this the correct way. I think that happens quite a bit with people that have, if we're skillful and sharp in one area, we feel that we are going to be skillful and wise in other areas, and that's pride.
Yeah.
And we are not teachable. I just had a one-on-one meeting with one of our doctors here, and one of the newer ones. And again, I said, like, one of the great characteristics that you can have is being teachable.
Yeah.
Being teachable is going to lead you to a place of greater respect, influence, and it's going to improve your leadership capabilities and your growth in this field that you've chosen as a career. Teachability is key.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you're so right, Greg. And teachability really stems from a place of humility, of realizing that you don't know everything and being willing to listen to other people and to remove that ignorance that's there. But you have to realize how ignorant you really are, and you have to realize, you have to be able to identify how ignorant you really are and give other people credit for things that they may know that you don't know. You really need to see that well, and that's really the beginning of wisdom on this. So some of you out here that are listening are maybe have a religious perspective, or maybe have some knowledge on the Bible, and some of you may not. But so I want to bring up a few scriptures from the Bible, and I understand that not everybody necessarily adheres to the Bible, but I will say that what we're talking about is really a universal principle. As we started this, I quoted Darwin, and there's also, ancient Chinese proverbs that will back all of this up well too. So it doesn't matter what religion you're in or what your worldview is. What we're talking about today really is supported by anybody that has any kind of a good awareness, and pretty much most of the world would kind of just know this to be true anyway. But so, Greg, I want to read a couple Bible verses, and I want to get your take on this and how we might relate it to this Mount Stupid here. So 1 Corinthians 3:18 says, "Do not deceive yourselves. If any of you think you are wise by the standards of this age, you should become fools so that you may become wise." Wow.
Really good. I mean, that's deception. And, one of the things that when I talk about deception with other people, as I ask this question, is like, how do you know when you're being deceived? It's really hard. Usually we recognize deception by looking in the rear view mirror. It's like, oh, I'm to a place now where I realize that I'm in a place where I have been deceived because of the results that are now cropping up all around me. I've not made wise choices. I've listened to something that's been foolish. And when he said, look, if any of you think that you are wise by the standards of this age, which is really kind of a saying, it's like, if you think you're wise by your own individualized, selfish, prideful standards of things, you should become the opposite of that, or fools, so that you can really become truly wise. The great expressions of foolishness are usually led by one of these great sayings like, here, hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah.
Because something bad is about to happen with someone who says, don't worry, I got this. And it's like, no, you really don't.
Yeah, I think of people that say, well, what could go wrong?
Yeah, that's a real good question to ask. Well, what is the worst that could happen? And if you stop and go, I think a lot bad can happen here. Let's think this through. Again, young people, primarily young males, a little bit of knowledge, thrown a little bit of testosterone, mixed up and blended with some selfish pride. It's like, what could go wrong? I've got this. Famous last words.
Yeah.
They are going to wind up in the valley of despair, which is a great place to become teachable.
Yeah. So many of you know that Greg has like a whole tribe of kids. He's got 9 kids. And so, Greg, I'm sure you're going to be able to relate to what I'm about to say, but I've got a 16-year-old daughter, and she's driving. And of course, she is the best driver on the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so she knows just enough about driving to be dangerous. And so she drives a little fast, and she's a little sloppy and really not as careful as I would be. And not to say that I wasn't just as reckless when I was 16, but I'm not now. I admit now that I'm not nearly as good of a driver as I thought I was when I was 16.
I totally agree. And sometimes some experience dealing with our area of focus in reality brings us up against, you know what, I don't really know everything that I need to know, but those things that we don't know, we can learn and get better.
Yeah.
I mean, how boring or how arrogant is it to start your career and just saying, I know it all. I've achieved everything that I need to know in this line of work. I've already reached the pinnacle. First of all, that's a very arrogant place. But even if that was true, it's like, so the rest of my experience is just kind of either a plateau or downhill if I've reached the pinnacle already.
Yeah, that's right. It really does come down to what is our area of focus? Are we focused on what we already know, and we want to kind of bring that to light and make that what we concentrate on, and make sure that everyone knows that, and continue to use that knowledge everywhere you can, which is fine. It's good to know your knowledge. In fact, I want to have a doctor that's going to operate on me, be somebody that really does have a lot of knowledge. But I also understand that doctor didn't gain all of that knowledge without an incredible curiosity to learn.
That's right.
To realize what they don't know. I'm sure everybody out there would probably rather have Dr. Greg, work on your filling than me. Although I'll tell you, I used a lot of kitchen utensils and a lot of machinery, and I have stayed in a Holiday Inn Express, so I could probably do it pretty well.
Well, even the one is like, look, this is my very first, open heart surgery procedure, or the one who says this is my 1000th open heart surgery procedure.
Right.
I'll take the guy with experience because he's learned things, and he's wise, and he can do something beneficial.
Yep. Now, of course, regardless of what I think about my ability to do any kind of dentistry, it would be absurd for me to do that because I don't know anything about that. But I could really deceive myself and make myself think, well, how hard can it be? I mean, there's dentists all over the place and they don't have any trouble doing it. So why can't I do it? Same thing, Greg. I've seen a lot of people that have wanted to open up restaurants, and after talking with them, I would ask them, why do you believe you can do this? It really requires a certain skill and a way of thinking and certain abilities. Why do you believe you can do this? Well, I've had success in everything I've done, and how hard can it be? It's like, oh, you don't know what you don't know.
It's
And
somewhere between very hard and even more difficult than that.
yep, yep. No matter what it is. And so, anyway, well, this is a great topic. We could keep talking on forever and ever, Greg, but I think we've exhausted ourselves. People understand that we got to get off Mount Stupid. Got to get off Mount Stupid. We got to travel through the valley to get to where we need to be. So, any last words, Greg?
I think I've when I looked at that graph, I do think of myself and just the doctors in my profession, because they come out of school, they come here, and it's after a while, usually within their first year, they start to go through a season of doubt because they've run into reality. And it's like, I've been challenged on some things, and I realize that I don't know as much as what I need to know. And even as we lead organizations, as we parent our families, as we run our businesses, we are going to find ourselves down in that despair think. And I really like what you had to say there, Joel, is that we don't have to stay there. If we want to deny that we're there and be helpless and be victims, we're going to stay there or move on and just wind up there again. But it's really important that when something is not going right, is that the first question that we shouldn't ask is why? Why did this happen? Because we may never know. But the question that we do need to focus is on now what?
Now what?
What have I learned from this? And what am I going to do to move forward? That's a place of humility. What have I learned? What do I need to learn? And then what do I do to get back on this mission that I'm on to fulfill a vision for the organization that I'm leading? So important for us as business owners, visionaries, but also as we coach and lead, shepherd, and care for our employees, direct reports, whatever it is, because they are going to find themselves sometimes in that valley.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know what, things are just going, it's hard. Right now I'm in a hard place. It's like, okay, what are you learning? What needs to be done to get out? And it usually involves the character trait of humility and the competency of skills, wisdom, knowledge, those sorts of things. And we can help get people out, and they're going to be better, and your organization's going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit it pretty well, Greg. You really talked about the difference between focusing on the problem and focusing on the solution. We could always look backwards and blame people and figure out why things didn't go as they should have been, and we could just focus on the problem. And it seems like when we focus on the problem never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
We get so attached to the problem, and it makes us bitter. It makes us helpless. It makes us defeated. But when we can focus on the solution and kind of forget about the past and press on towards the goal, forward, that's when we can really move up that slope of enlightenment and move towards a plateau of sustainability with wisdom. So this is great. Hey, so if you're out there and you are interested in what we're talking about, first of all, we invite you to give us some feedback and sign up for our podcast if you're not already signed up. But also we want to invite you to contact us because we are coaches. We are coaches that work in the professional world, and we work with business owners. And Greg is a speaker and a coach. And Greg, how would they get a hold of you if they're interested in communicating with you a little bit more about how you can help them?
Yeah, for speaking and those sorts of things to help groups, individuals, businesses, they can go to my website, which is drgreggilbaugh.com. And then for coaching and for faith, business, leadership, those sorts of things, the kalosbusinessgroup.com, Kalos spelled K-A-L-O-S, the kalosbusinessgroup.com. Love to connect with you.
Yeah. And if you are in the nonprofit organization field and you really need some help with that, you can certainly contact Joe Baker, who is my normal co-host, and you can contact him at you can go to superherosidekick.com, and he would be glad to talk with you about how he can serve you. If you're in the leadership world and you want to build teams and you want to work past some personal issues and remove some obstacles so you can kind of grow and move forward in your leadership, feel free to contact me. I love talking about this stuff, and you can contact me at joelsmithcoach.com. So joelsmithcoach.com. So, hey, Greg, this was a good show.
Thank you, Joel, for letting me be part of it. Love being with you and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, no problem. So, hey, everybody, we'll see you next time.